Okay.
Hello, Rafael.
Hello.
We are live.
Great.
I'm sure we're right this time, but let's see.
Yep, I got it. You're live now. So I'm going to share this to copy link.
I apologize, everybody. I'm not good with technology because I was born before we actually went to the moon, okay? A long time ago. And so this technology came later. My generation invented it, but it came later. Yes, we are live, which is exciting. So, oh, and there's already 73 people. So that's how we know we're in the right page and not on my personal Facebook profile, which is where I was this morning, which none of my personal friends actually wanted to hear about this. So I'm really glad that we fixed this. I'll jump in with questions. Let me see here. Hello, everybody. Some people consent to additional medical tests, at least for a few months. Therefore, people who were sending lose a chance to get a visa need to reserve an immigrant visa. The main goal of Kennedy lawsuit was to reserve visas by the name of everyone from the lawsuit. Is this possible to reach that goal now? Will Kennedy plaintiffs get a priority in scheduling the interview? Okay, one question per comment. That is actually a four-part question. And by the time I get through it, I'm going to miss some of it. Rafael, do you want to take any of it on? Or?
I'm sharing the page to all to my page. Give me one second and
Okay.
Catch up.
So additional medical tests, that is a problem. Because right now there's no reason to send anything to the embassy if you're a DV 2020 applicant or to KCC, because it'll get lost. They don't have a place to put it. They are not processing DV 2020 applications right now. So just hang on to that for now until processing resumes, which we expect to be in early, mid-April, something like that. Let me see the rest of the question here. So I understand your concern, because if you have to do, when you do your new medical, which you will have to do because it'll be 6 months probably, and it takes a couple more months if you have to do additional testing too, maybe all those DV 2020 visas will be gone. I'm worried about that too. There's a chance that the named plaintiffs will get some sort of priority in the order. We can't interpret the order before it is issued, nor can we interpret how it will be implemented. So that's a question that you're going to have to wait until the order is issued and it is implemented before we know the answer. You said the main goal of the Kennedy was to reserve the visas by name of everyone from the lawsuit. The main goal of Kennedy had lots of goals. In September, the State Department was only issuing DVs to the Mohammed and Fangjong plaintiffs. Kennedy woke the State Department up and they issued 5,000 in the last week of September after we filed Kennedy. So it lit a fire under them. That was one big goal of Kennedy. But it also pushed that, it made sure that the judge understood that there were a lot of people out there that needed visas besides the Mohammed and Fangjong. And so he reserved those 9,095, taking into account that the Kennedy plaintiffs had already brought their case. Whether or not you get a priority because you're a Kennedy plaintiff is something you're going to need to wait to know, okay, until the final order and how it's implemented. Okay, let's go to the next question. Rafael, do you want to take one?
Yeah, and I just want to speak to this question about freezing or extending the validity of the current medical examination documents until the final court decision after March 12th. I don't think the court has that authority to freeze the validity of medical examinations. So there's lots of things that we wish the court could do to help DV plaintiffs out. It's like freezing the validity of medical examinations so we wouldn't have to reapply, especially for instances where tuberculosis is an issue and that may slow down the processing of visas when the processing of visas resumes. But there's just no authority in law for us to go to Judge Mehta and ask him to do these sorts of things. So when we think about our request to Judge Mehta, we have to look to the law to see that there's a basis in the law for us to go back to Mehta and have a discussion with him about what we want to do. So I just don't think there's a basis in law for Mehta to freeze the validity of medical examinations, because those medical examinations must take place in a certain amount of time before the visa can be issued. And he just can't erase congressional law for us to help out DVs. There just has to be a basis in law.
Good answer. Okay, so I'm going to take this question because I know it's going to be typed over and over. Is the class certification you're seeking in Jacob v. Trump for DV 2020 or DV 2021 or both? The class certification for the Jacob versus Trump case is for immigrant visas. It includes all the family categories that are the represented plaintiffs in Jacob, and it also says the DV program. We don't say what year, okay? So the class definition includes immigrants, not non-immigrants, not H-1Bs. It includes immigrants. We want to enjoin the proclamation for immigrants, which includes diversity visa program selectees.
Right. And what's going to happen to DV 2020 visa holders? Well, we don't know what's going to happen to DV 2020 visa holders with certainty because there's so many variables still going out. So what is going to happen to DV 2020 holders is this. They're going to have to wait for decisions in the Gomez appeal. The Anciato case in the Northern District of California, our case, Jacob v. Trump, or the Biden administration. You have to wait for one of those things to occur before we know what's going to happen to DV 2020 holders. So at each point when there's a decision there, we can have more and more information about what's going to happen. What's going to happen to DV 2020 holders right now is that they have to wait for those 4 variables to settle before we know exactly what's going to happen in their cases. Anything else we tell you is just speculation. It doesn't help you to speculate because then you start making decisions on speculation. And when you start making decisions on speculations, you start making mistakes and you start wasting money and you start having trouble at border entries. So just wait for those 4 variables to happen. You can make more and more informed decisions about what we can do in your case. And those decisions are going to have those variables are going to have decisions in them very, very quickly. We're going to have a new administration here in a couple of days. Annunciato has a hearing in I think a week. We have a TRO pending in Jacob v. Trump that could be issued at any day. So those are going to happen very, very quickly. We're almost there. We're almost going to have some answers for you guys.
And plus Gomez, I will add the Gomez appeal. You can listen to those tomorrow at 9:30. Those are arguments.
Right. And when we listen in, we're going to start getting a little bit of a flavor of what the judges are thinking in the case. So then we're going to have a little bit more information. So we'll touch base with you on after we listen to those oral arguments about what we think and where the judges are going with that. Because you can really get a sense of what's going to happen when you listen to oral arguments. The judges kind of tip their hats in oral arguments.
Rafael Tal brought up a good point before we start going in deep in these questions. We should give a big overview. And from my view, there's 2 different categories of overviews because there's 2 different categories of DV 2020 clients. Ones with already issued visas that have not been able to enter, and those that are awaiting the issuance of visas either from our lobbying efforts or from Judge Mehta. So do you want to choose one of those and I'll do the other?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Curtis.
Okay, so you can do the ones for the ones awaiting visas. I'll say if you're already issued a visa and you had to cancel your travel plans and you're waiting either in a third country or your home country with your where you quit your job and you sold your property and all that. First of all, I'm like really sorry that you're going through this. It's awful, and everybody on the staff is like really upset about that. There's 4 ways. I think Rafael's already hinted at this. There's 4 ways that this proclamation can disappear before your visa expires. Most of your visas expire in March. Some expire soon. Some have already expired. I realize that. Most of them expire in March. The 4 ways are President Biden could enjoin the proclamation. The Gomez Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia could enjoin the proclamation, could order the district court to enjoin the proclamation. Listen to those oral arguments this time tomorrow. And you'll get a feel for that, like Rafael just said. The 3rd is the Enunciado case, could enjoin the proclamation. And the 4th is the case we filed Monday, Jacob versus Trump, could enjoin the proclamation. So I basically just said what Rafael just did, but that's the answer. There's 4 things that could happen. If those 4 things don't happen, we'll go back to Judge Mehta, and so there's a 5th safety net too.
Yeah, and can you repeat the question for everybody, Curtis, about the visa holders? I was paying attention to the questions that were coming in. So the second part of that question is?
The people who have not been issued visas, they're waiting for final judgment. Can you tell them what our expectations are for final judgment and what they do between now and then?
Right. DVD 2020 holders, selectees that have not received a visa are in a different boat. So the proclamation itself isn't really enjoining or preventing them from getting processing. What's preventing them from getting processing is the expiration of the fiscal year 2020. So the law, that's the INA that says that it can't be issued after the fiscal year of 2020. So if the proclamation is enjoined in one of these 4 cases, that doesn't really help you if you haven't got your visa yet. So if you're a Kennedy plaintiff, a Mohammed, or a Fanjong plaintiff who hasn't received your visa, you're not really looking to those other cases. You're paying attention to Gomez, Mohammed, Fanjong, Kennedy, and Edgar, right? And so what we can expect there is that the final decision in that case, or if we enter in a stipulation with a Biden Department of Justice, is for them to resume processing. So what essentially is going to happen is going to be sort of an extension, so to speak, of the processing of those visas. So what's going to be very important for anybody who doesn't have a DV 2020 visa in hand, who's a DV 2020 selectee, is to have everything else in order. And that's what really my team is really preparing to do for Mohammed, Fanjong, Kennedy, and Project Voyager plaintiffs that don't have a visa in hand, is to really give you the best chance and make sure you have everything in order, and have our teams working diligently to get you into an embassy as quickly as possible to get your visa, because it's going to be a scramble, and it's going to be something that's unprecedented in the history of the diversity visa program. There's really no comparison to having 9,000 visas reserved after the expiration of the fiscal year in the diversity visa program history. So that's what we can expect, really just a monumental effort by Curtis and my staff to get our clients their visas issued after expiration, after the issuance of an order in Gomez, Mohammed, Fanjong, and Edgar. So if you don't, to cut it short, if you don't
and Kennedy.
And Kennedy. So if you don't have a visa yet, pay attention to that case. That's really your guidepost right there, that you can cut out all the other noise and just pay attention to what Meta is doing.
Quick protocol, ask your question once. I see some people are asking their question over and over and over, and that's actually causing problems. So, but it is an important question. Can you please tell us about the Kennedy litigation? I need to explain the Kennedy lawsuit is consolidated with Mohammed, Fanjong, Edgar, and Gomez. All those cases are consolidated. What that means is it's very likely that the judge's order will deal with all 4 cases at the same time. He could bifurcate it, which means make 2 separate orders, because we are doing separate briefing for, we're doing one set of briefing for Mohammed, Fanjong, and Kennedy, and Gomez is doing their own briefing. So They are two separate briefing processes, but we think the judge will issue the same order. But all these cases are tied. So just because we don't say the name Kennedy, if we're talking about the Gomez litigation, we're talking about Mohammed, Fong-Jong, Edgar, and Kennedy, and Gomez.
Right.
Do you want to take one of these?
Right. I'm kind of lost where we're at, but.
Oh, you just grab one. That's what I do.
So I saw a question that they said that it may be difficult for the Biden administration to undo executive orders implemented by Trump. That's not true. Executive orders and presidential proclamations can be undone with a stroke of a pen. Where there's going to be more difficulty for the Biden administration to undo some of the Trump policies is really with the regulations that have gone through a notice and comment period and the internal policies and guidance that may not be so much at the forefront of the Biden administration's thinking of what to do. So those are going to be more difficult to undo. But these big travel bans that the Biden administration has implemented are very, very simple to rescind. It's really just a stroke of a pen, and those are rescinded. But the regulations that have gone through notice and comment periods, those become more difficult to undo.
Here's a question for the people with the issued DV 2020s that are waiting for the ban to be enjoined before they can enter. Tal asked, did you get a reply regarding the IATA issue, IATA issue? And what this was, for those that missed it, a trade organization that supports the airlines put on the internet and also guidance to airlines that said, oh, DV, anybody with a DV is not valid. And that made a lot of DV selectees that have visas very anxious and nervous. The thing is, this isn't the government. This is just a trade organization, and they're trying to train people that are not lawyers to implement a rule that's complicated. And that they were just trying an easy way to tell the airlines DVs should not be getting on planes right now. I'm telling you, if you're a DV, you should not be getting on a plane right now unless you have a national interest waiver, which is probably for people on Earth. Okay, national interest waivers are like unicorns. And so don't email us saying, oh, I want a national interest waiver, because we haven't seen that thing. Rafael, have you seen, I mean, for a DV, a national interest waiver?
I think I've heard of one, but it's sort of like the Loch Ness Monster. You hear about it, but you've never seen it, right?
Right. Like an honest Republican. It's one of those things that, like, they say it exists, but once you see it, I'll believe it. So the IATA issue, however you say that name, please don't worry about that. They did amend their website to make it more friendly. It's still not accurate, but the thing is, they're just trying to get people that work at the airlines to follow the rules. They're not the authority on this at all, and they'll change that guideline once we have an order that enjoins the proclamation, or President Biden enjoins it.
Okay, I have a question here. Maybe Judge Mehta, as he says, does not have the authority to cancel or enjoin Presidential Proclamation 014. But if other judges have the authority to make an exception, as is the case in Nam, Young, etc., maybe could also make an exception for DV 2020, whether it can be requested from Judge Mehta. What I think the question is asking is if there's another court order outside of the Gomez, Mohammed, Fong, John Kennedy, and Edgar lawsuits that enjoins Presidential Proclamation 10014, will it have an effect on DV 2020? And the answer is yes. So Judge Mehta doesn't have to make an exception for DV 2020 if one of the other judges issues a worldwide injunction or enjoins the proclamation entirely. That just removes one barrier to the issuance and the entry of DV 2020 from Judge Mehta's order. So he just doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And all he has to really get down to is our APA claims that really have been the focus of Curtis and I litigation from the very beginning, really just putting visas in diversity visa holders' hands. And that's really all he has to worry about. And that's really, really good, because we know Judge Mehta is really, really offended by the no visa policy, right? He has taken issue with that, and he has brought that front and center in his orders. And so if we get another order in Nam, Young, or Jacob, it's going to help DV 2020s, and it just makes Judge Mehta's job a lot easier. He just doesn't even have to worry about that, and he can just get right back to the processing of DV 2020s visas.
I want to take one from Krishna. Namaste. You ask if Biden removes the Proclamation 10014 on its first day, will the court case continue in Kennedy? Oh, absolutely, because the president actually doesn't have the authority to save DV 2020. Only Congress or the courts can do that. So we will move forward with the Gomez. Everything stays on schedule with Gomez, to where we will finish up briefing by mid-March, hope for an order by the end of March. That order will probably be implemented by the fourth week of April. So DV 2020s, including Kennedy, Muhammad, and Fong Jong plaintiffs who have not been issued visas, can expect for an outcome in April, really, for a practical outcome. Maybe an order by the end of March, but a practical outcome by the end of April. And that will not change because President Biden takes office. Although, as Rafael always reminds me, I could let him remind me now, the government's posture in litigation could be a lot friendlier once Biden takes office, and we are hoping for that. Do you have a question you want to answer?
I'm looking for a good question. Seems like we have some repeats here.
What is the chance that we enter in March? I don't know the context. If you have an issued DV 2020 visa, the chance is very good because, like I said before, there's like 4 things that could happen. And then if those 4 things don't happen, we can go back to Judge Mehta, which is Charles Cuck has already started that conversation with Judge Mehta to make him aware, and something that he filed a few days ago. We can go back to Judge Mehta and see if we can get those visas that expired reinstated, but that's a last resort. I'd rather get you all traveling now, February. I want people to be able to come in the U.S. in February.
We have a question from Tao. Do you need to support the Edgar team in the request for extension, or does it cover all plaintiffs in the Gomez case? If there's an order in the Edgar about the reissuance and the extension of visas, it will cover all the plaintiffs in the case. We don't expect Judge Mehta to say simply that the extension or reissuances will only pertain to one subsection of plaintiffs within that litigation. So we certainly do not oppose the Edgar team's efforts, and if they present a motion for onto some sort of reissuance and extension, we'll certainly join in that motion once we have an opportunity to review it.
Aaron Guzzle asked, why can't we go to Judge Mehta now for DV 2020 visa holders? It's a legal strategy question, and we can't disclose our full strategy in a public forum where the government lawyers are probably in the room. But if you read Judge Mehta's September 4th order, where he would not enjoin the proclamation. Everybody read the last page where he said visa processing can resume in September. If you read the other 80 pages, he has a point of view that may not be helpful. And so I think the Biden, Gomez, Annunciado, and Jacob are probably the best path to enjoining the proclamation right now.
I have a question. I'm an Egyptian, lowly ass. I'm an Egyptian citizen living in Cairo. I'm a client of Project Voyager. I wanted to know what is the next step. My case number is still at NBC, and my interview is supposed to be on May 2020. Please answer my question. So if you were scheduled for an interview and you probably are going to be in a very, very good position if processing resumes. What the next step for Project Voyager is really for us to start engaging with our lobbyist and his efforts and to see where those efforts go. That's really going to happen in the coming days, and we're going to engage in those efforts, and we'll be letting you know what those efforts say result in.
Okay.
I've got another question here. Is it possible to ask the judge to treat DV 2020 as mission critical so the process speed can speed up and we all have a chance to get a visa? Yes, it is possible. to treat them as mission critical. What we're trying to do is really say that these mission critical or emergency distinctions are arbitrary and capricious. What that means is that they don't really mean anything, and it's just an opportunity for the government to decide which visas get issued without any real thought and just implementing their discretion, when all visas should be treated the same, right? There's no distinction in the INA that says one visa is more important than another. There is a distinction in the sense that there's no limit in this amount of visas that can be issued for immediate relatives, but it doesn't say this visa is more important. So what we're trying to do is really not have the DV 2020s treated as mission critical. We're just trying to remove the necessity for all visas to be determined to be mission critical to get an adjudication, if that makes sense. So in short answer, yes, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have the DV 2020s treated just at DV 2021s treated just as everybody else's are, and that will speed up the adjudication of visas for DV 2021.
See, we have a question in Spanish, and I'm getting a translation on that right now. Go on.
Yeah, I have a question here. Is there any sense to exit the Gomez, Mohammed, Fonjung, Kennedy, and Edgar lawsuits and enter Enunciado? No, you can't do it. Even if it was beneficial for you, you can't do it. You brought your claim before a court. It's before a judge. You can't then just say, oh, just kidding, I don't like the way you decided something, I'm going to jump to this other judge and have him decide it. You just can't do it. So even if you wanted to do it, you can't do it. The government would oppose it vehemently, say that you've already brought the claims and you wouldn't get any benefits, even if that case went well for those just simply named plaintiffs. So the short answer is no, don't do that. You're just going to complicate the jobs for all the lawyers, all the attorneys involved, the judges involved, and you're really not going to get any benefit from that. So no, you can't hop from lawsuit to lawsuit. I wish we could. That would be a great strategy for all of us, but you can't do it. So please don't do it. You're going to make everybody's lives very, very difficult. We've already had to unwind some of that in the beginning of the Gomez litigation with Mohammed and Fonjung plaintiffs, and it was some complication. It also created tension between the attorneys whose client really is this. So please don't do that.
I'm going to answer a couple quick questions here. Are there hopes for rejected cases? Actually, something very interesting about the immigration visa process is rejection is part of the process, because when you go for an interview, they reject you because they can't hand you the visa there. It's called a 221 rejection, which is overcomable. Same with the 212F rejections. They're also overcomable. There's a few rejections that are not overcomable if you're a member of a terrorist organization or something like that. But is there hope for rejected cases? Absolutely, because most people that have attended one interview before, that's their case, and you're in a very good position because you've already got yourself. We're definitely at the embassy level, and the embassy consular officers already looked at your file. So there is hope for rejected cases. And if you're one of those rejected cases that are affected by 9645 or 9983, the Muslim ban or the African ban, there's definitely hope for you, because Biden has promised on day one to enjoin those proclamations. So we don't think that you will need a waiver of those proclamations. So that will no longer be a barrier for you. So there's definitely hope for rejected cases.
Right. And that's really been a distinction between Curtis and my litigation that's different from the Edgar and the Gomez, is that we really focused our attention on PP 9645 and PP 9983, that Muslim and African bans, that we really want to take Judge Mehta's reasoning about the processing of visas and the issuance of visas and the inability for the president to refuse a visa based on these 212F entry suspension and apply that to the Muslim and African bans. So I really think that our litigation strategy is going to put those individuals and our clients that have been refused under PP 9645 and have refused under the Africa ban in a very, very good position once processing resumes, because they've had already gone through the process. got that refusal. So really all that's left to do for them would be to go submit a new police certificate or a new medical examination and have a re-adjudication. They don't really have to get in line to get back into the queue to get an interview. So yeah, they're going to be in a good position.
Okay, and the question that was asked in Spanish, I've got translation. I think it came from Cuba, from Daly. We are plaintiffs in the Kennedy case that have expired visas that we couldn't travel on because we were stuck in Cuba, right? How will we get out of this? Will they be reissued, DV 2020? And what we've got 5 families on the Kennedy lawsuit in this situation, and I know that there's many more that are not our plaintiffs in this situation that are not here listening, but we have not forgot about you. Our motion for summary judgment will bring that to Judge Mehta's attention. And so his final order could take into account a solution for that, but we won't know until it's issued. And we expect that to be, was it March 1st? End of March, end of April 1st. Yeah, end of March at the soonest. I've got another one.
Yeah, go right ahead, Chris.
Will the Shingen ban be solved with any of our litigation? No, the Shingen ban is related to COVID, and I am doubtful that Biden will, President-elect Biden will even touch the Shingen ban. He could, because it doesn't make a lot of sense, because you can actually get out of it by spending 14 days in Mexico or Turkey. So from that perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But none of the litigation that we are doing is challenging the Shingen ban, because it's difficult to challenge something that's directly related to preventing COVID. I know that one of Charles Cuck's lawsuits for the fiancé visas, I think, was challenged. I forgot the name of the case. Was challenging the implementation of the Shingen ban, but that's not our focus, because there's a way around that if you win in other litigation, and that's spend 14 days in Mexico or Turkey. Right,
but the underlying reasoning of Judge Mehta's order, his preliminary injunction order, was that the 212F suspension couldn't prevent the issuance of the visas. So if we look to the basis of the Shingen ban, it's still 212F. And if Mehta applies that reasoning that 212F can't prevent the suspension and adjudication and the issuance of visas, then the Shingen ban kind of falls away. You would still have to spend 14 days out of the Schengen area to enter the United States. So that's a possibility. We'll see what Judge Mehta wants to do. I'm kind of sort of iffy if whether Biden will keep this Schengen ban in place. I think he wants to start to facilitate the Europe and American relations again. We've seen the CDC implement a COVID testing requirement, so we may see that Schengen ban at least be pulled back a little bit. But really, it's all just speculation at this point, so we'll wait and see what happens.
There's somebody that has posted the same question maybe 100 times. I just want you to know I'm not going to answer that question, because that's not the way to do this. Okay. Also, you said that you were asked to interview November 7th. Okay, you tricked me. I'm going to answer the question, but please stop asking it. Okay. So I'm assuming that you're a DV 2020 that was interviewed November 7th, and you were put in administrative processing. Okay, you're in the same boat everybody else is. You have to wait until Judge Mehta's decision, which is the end of March. Okay, you're not any specialer because you were the first DV 2020 interviewed. You're just going to have to wait for that final decision like everybody else.
We can tell you're very effective, so you'll probably be the first one.
Yeah, yeah. If you're that persistent with the embassy, you'll probably get. It's going to take us a second to find another question, because we're scrolling through how many times you asked that.
Loli asked, the U.S. Embassy in Cairo is still closed, and I don't see my case number included in the 9,000 Gomez visas. I'm a Project Voyager client. Is there any hope for me? Well, there is no numbers in the 9,000 Gomez visas, right? So you still have a chance of getting your visa. Project Voyager increases your opportunity if we can get more visas allocated to DV 2020 or reallocated to DV 2020. So there is hope for you. The embassy in Cairo is closed. I've worked with a lot of Yemeni clients that deal with the Cairo embassy, and it's very difficult to work with them at this point. They're not being responsive to inquiries. Even United States citizens, clients that I have that simply want to have a passport application done so they can leave Egypt and come to the United States, their home country, are having difficulties getting into the embassy. So I understand your frustration with the United States Embassy in Cairo, but there is hope. Project Voyager was a great thing for you to join if you're worried about your case number being included. And I think you're doing everything right to actually get a DV 2020 visa issued in your case. And our team is very experienced with the United States Embassy in Cairo. So having our team behind you just for the consular processing phase, if DV 2020 was resumed, puts you even in a better position. So you're doing everything right, and I think there is hope.
Someone asked, without canceling Proclamation 10014, there is no point of removing Muslim ban. That's actually not true, but the purpose of our litigation is not removing the Muslim ban. The Muslim ban also impacts people that are exempt, and it's impacted hundreds of thousands of visa applicants already in the last 3.5 years. But our focus of our litigation is 10014 and getting DV 2020, and now for the Jacob case, the DV 2021. But the Muslim ban is not the focus of the Mohammed Fongzhang or Kennedy case. It's just a component of it. Right. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. What Curtis is saying that is that there's some cases that are not affected by PP 10014 that are being affected by PP 9645, the Muslim ban. So if you remove the Muslim ban, there would be no impediment or no barrier for those people to enter, like the children of United States citizens. It's just very sad for us to see little children of United States citizens being subjected to the Muslim ban. So there is definitely a point in removing it. And secondly, it's just a stain on our country. We know that the Muslim ban was motivated by bigotry, so removing it will just have will just be symbolic at the very least.
Let's see if I can find a good question here.
Hi, gentlemen. My question. Government has stated they have issued my wife's visa in their response to court in December. While they have it, we are the Kennedy members. Is there something we should do to make sure they've made a mistake in their response? So if you're saying that they've issued your wife's case in their response to the court in December, we will follow up for you. So Evan, contact us directly in an email with your case number, with your wife's case number, and we will get to the bottom of what is exactly going on in that case. Because if they're saying they issued it, and you may be entitled to get that visa. So let's figure out what's going on.
Kagate asked, if the court gives a possibility to reissuance to the DV 2020 visa holders, what will be the reserve visas? Will they be deducted from the reserve visas? I think the question you're asking is, how many will they be, and will there be, and who will they go to? There's 9,095 visas that Judge Mehta reserved. Those are the visas that he has the authority to say how they will be issued. We cannot tell you how and who will get them until he issues his order, and we see how State Department interprets and implements that order. So you're asking a question that everybody in this room wants to know, but we can't answer it until Judge Mehta issues the order and we see how State Department interprets it.
Right, because it's all speculation at this point. You can't make informed decisions without information. So we really need to wait for those orders and those decisions to start coming out to make informed decisions. Even if we're at a position where all four scenarios are negative, then we can even make another decision about what you can do at that point to get your end goal of entering the United States. So just wait with just a little patience. We're almost there. We've come a long way since these cases have started, and we're almost at the end. But I understand everybody's frustration, truly. I really do, because I'm getting a little frustrated. I'm getting a little anxious about where we're going to go people are going to enter the United States or get their visas or have more numbers allocated, or what's going to happen with the medical examinations and police certificates. I want to have the information to start answering these questions, because telling everybody to wait for these board decisions is taking up about 50% of my time. I'm just repeating that over and over and over and over again. So once I get the information, we can start solving problems, so I don't have to repeat myself so much, so we can just get moving.
All right. I have a quick tip. If you are a DV 2020 selectee client of ours and you have not been issued a visa and your police certificate is a year old, we want you to get a new police certificate in March or before March so that it is good for a year. Because we think that when that final order comes and adjudication of DVs resumes, we want you to have every advantage. You don't need to be waiting on something. You don't need to be creating the delay. We want to be able to get you an interview as soon as possible. And if you have your own barrier, those 9,095 visas could disappear in 3 to 4 weeks, and you don't have a police certificate because that agency closed because of COVID. That happened in Mexico all year long. You could not get a police certificate from the federal authorities in Mexico, and you had to do tricky things to get it. So everybody needs to be prepared with their police certificates. If you're our client, you want one that's good for a year. And one other tip related to that, your passport has to be good for how long, Rafael?
6 months past the issuance of the visa.
Right. So if your passport expires in the next 8 months, go get a new passport right now.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, go get a new one.
Right. I realize some people can't. Just as soon as you can. It's always good to have the freshest, newest passport for the visa.
Right. Okay, there's a question here that I think is related to Jacob. One plaintiff was missing. It was replaced with my file in document 1. I've emailed Philip, but he didn't reply yet. He hasn't replied because he hasn't got to that email yet. As soon as he gets to that email, he'll reply to it and ensure that those corrections are made to the Jacob filing. It's a, yes, Curtis?
Also, that was not a DV 2020 question, so everybody can ignore that question and answer, and don't be confused by it, because this Q&A is about DV 2020. When will we know about the Voyager project? I wish I hadn't named it the project the way I did, because that's actually 2 parts. One part's the lobbying, and one part's the consular processing representation. I assume your question is about the lobbying efforts. About the 3rd week of December, we realized that there's no way we could have got anything through Congress in December, so the efforts resumed at the beginning of January. We've been in close contact with our lobbyist, Bruce Morrison, and in fact, he did a declaration for us for the Jacob lawsuit that is very cool. I posted it on Twitter and Telegram if you wanted to see it, but he really is being helpful also in the litigation, not just the lobbying and the legislation. Congress in the U.S. is a little distracted right now, and it's unlikely that we will have a legislative solution to the DV problem in the next couple weeks in the U.S. Congress. But February, it's more likely, because the power in the Senate has shifted. So we'll be giving more updates about that.
Yeah, but a little more information about Project Voyager. So I think everybody's very interested in what's going on behind the scenes. To pass legislation in the Senate, you kind of need support from both sides. So you need 2 senators to work together from both sides of the aisle to try to formulate a legislation, and then that's really how it starts. Bruce has engaged 2 people in the Senate. We don't want to tip our hat exactly which senators they are, because they haven't committed totally, and they're going through the political aspects of it. So there is headway. So we're very hopeful that we're going to be giving you news on that front very soon. But Bruce has made headway in the legislative efforts. He just couldn't get it across the finish line before Congress got distracted. So we'll see where he's going to go with that once Congress has some space to get back to the business of passing legislation and not impeaching a sedacious president.
One more thing about Project Voyager. Sometimes I get asked, why is this not a social campaign? Why are we not lobbying members of Congress openly to do this, like on Twitter and Facebook. And the reason is Bruce's approach is been proven to be effective in the past, where you talk to the immigration, the members of Congress that care about immigration, and not the whole, because then you draw the attention of the anti-immigrant forces. They're probably watching this right now, and we just don't need their attention. If anybody thinks that they're an anti-immigrant legislator and they could say, I'm going to fight that, we don't want that. Let's just keep it off of their radar. This is better to be a discrete project.
Right. Bruce's approach is to move in silence. So when nobody knows you're there, nobody can work against you. So he brings his allies together, they get it done, and then his enemies don't even know it's done until it's done.
But he's also the authority. I mean, he was there. He was the author of the Immigration Act that made the diversity visa program possible. So he has more credibility on this particular issue
and if you
than anybody.
Go to C-SPAN and look up videos and type in Bruce Morrison, you can see him speaking about the creation of the diversity visa on in the halls of Congress. I saw a really interesting video with him and Chuck Schumer, who is going to be the Senate Majority Leader, talking about the creation of the diversity visa. So you got to think about how good of a position we are. You have Bruce Morrison standing next to Chuck Schumer creating the diversity visa program, and they're literally friends, right? So like this is such a good thing. Just the developments that have happened over the past month are great for Project Voyager. There's so much possibility there, and if we could pass legislation, I'm like, it's gonna be an amazing thing.
We don't know they're friends, but they do know each other, obviously. Okay.
At least acquaintances.
Exactly.
They've sat next to each other. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Can the judge just delete the DVs with visas from PP just because he is tired of us?
Okay.
I don't know which judge you're talking about, but no judge is going to do that. Judges, they have enormous power, but for the most part, federal judges, man, they want justice. They don't get dressed up in a robe every day because they like the fashion. They want what's just, and they're not going to just get tired of one certain category of people that want justice. They're in the job of dispensing justice, like giving it, and that would not be giving justice by just throwing you out. Plus, there's no procedure for them to delete the DVs. Yeah, so don't worry about that. Relax, okay? If you, on your questions, identify a little bit about yourself, whether or not you are an issued DV 2020 or you are a waiting for a visa DV 2020. Someone just said, Pedro says, I'm only waiting to take the medical. Do I need the police certificate again? You need the police certificate if the police certificate is a year old. If the police certificate is a year old, it's not any value at all. You need a new one. So if it's 11 months old right now, get a new one. Are you considering there could be travel restrictions around April due to the new COVID wave? Yes, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I'm an attorney in California. I'm not God. I cannot stop that, okay? But that is a concern. It could happen.
Okay, I have a question. Is there a chance for those that have not, for those whose documents were not processed for an interview, DV-20, to receive an interview for DV-20? And what about banned countries such as Sudan? Yes, we anticipate banned countries such as Sudan will have that PP 9645 barrier removed before processing resumes. If your documents were not processed, we do believe there's a chance for you to get an interview. We just have to wait for Judge Mehta's order to understand exactly how that is going to play out, how the processing is going to resume. But there is a chance that you will have chance to have an interview and a DV 2020 visa issued. Also, because there's Project Voyager that's trying to reallocate more visas to the DV 2020 program, so there's lots of chances that you will be able to get a DV 2020 visa issued. So in case of success in visas issuance resuming, are there ways to reopen case that are under administrative processing? There are fears that such cases will be forgotten by the government. No, I think these administrative processing cases are going to be some of the easiest to have visas issued because they're still at the embassy. Curtis and I were very, very, very proactive in the government, sending them letters telling them they cannot destroy any files for DV 2020 that are at the embassies. So those files have not been destroyed. If you're in administrative processing at an embassy and you've already been interviewed, that file is still there, and it certainly won't be forgotten when a judge issues an order telling them to get back to their business. They are going to remember who exactly was there. And if they didn't, if they have destroyed files or if they've done something nefarious to DV 2020 immigrant applications, we can go back to the judge and ask for additional relief based on those actions by the State Department after the commencement of litigation. Having trouble hearing you, Curtis. Okay, I can't hear you. Is anybody else hearing Curtis, or is it only me? I'll keep it going while Curtis tries to get this figured out. Is there any hope that Biden might cancel PP 10014? Of course there's hope. I mean, he's campaigned on righting the wrongs of the immigration acts of Donald Trump. So there's definitely hope. Okay, so the question is, what if a passport has validity till May 2021 and the visa is also issued in September and waiting for a decision to travel with current visa? Should I go to new passport or wait? There's 4 outcomes. Normally your visa validity can't extend past the expiration date of your visa. So you should have, if you have a visa stamp in there, it should be good through the validity period of the passport. But what you can do is, if you can't enter the plane without a 6-month validity passport issued, you can go and get a new passport and then take both passports with you to travel. So they'll look to your passport that has the visa in it and then your new passport, and you'll be able to travel with those. So you can go and get a new passport with the passport that has the visa in it, and you'll be able to travel with both those passports. So you had a police certificate issued in September. Do I need one for a new one? No, you do not. Police certificate issued in September is valid for a year, and it's only necessary to have that validity, that police certificate valid on the date of entry. So I don't believe you need get a new police certificate if it was issued in September. But if we run up to some sort of delay in the case for whatever reason, and we get to some point in June or July, it may be worthwhile to get a new police certificate. Okay, what scenario is more likely to take place? Reissuance or extensions of the visas? I don't know. I believe only reissuance of the visas would be more likely. I don't think Judge Mehta is inclined to extend visa validity.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Great.
Do you have, So the question is, do you have any plans for lawsuits to help United States citizens that their cases at embassies like Cairo is taking them forever to process these cases, even though the ban doesn't apply to us? Yes, you can call Curtis and I, and we can discuss a solo mandamus that's specifically tailored just for you. This process is a little more expensive than doing a group case, but it may be worthwhile for people with the resources to have a single case brought on their behalf to get the adjudication of their visas, especially at embassies like Cairo that are being very difficult to work with and not adjudicating mandatory adjudications of immigrant visa applications. So if you call our office and want to discuss a solo mandamus, we will be happy to discuss with you. And if you want to sue the United States Embassy in Cairo, I'll be very excited to do so, because they are very, very difficult to do with. And at the very least, they should be communicating a little better with individuals like yourself who are United States citizens who just desperately want to get their families to the United States. And they shouldn't have to wait years to be reunited with their families here in the United States. It's just simply ridiculous.
Is there any hope that Biden might cancel Proclamation 10014? We have not seen him talk about 10014 except for one tweet in June 23rd of 2020, where when it was extended the first time, Biden sent a tweet where he said, Trump is just trying to distract away from his poor handling of the COVID crisis, which now it's been 8 months is pretty accurate, but it was poor. So that's the limited amount of information we know on what Biden's view of this proclamation is, so we can't predict what he's going to do, but there's a good possibility that he would cancel it, but there's a good possibility he won't.
Right. Okay, so I have a question here. If the judge orders don't work for Kennedy plaintiffs, will we benefit from Project Voyager? Kennedy has told all Kennedy plaintiffs we don't need to join Project Voyager. Yes, you will benefit from Project Voyager. The intent of Project Voyager is to have more visas allocated or have the opportunity to reapply for diversity visas for DV 2020 selectees. So we don't know the exact language of the bill, but we anticipate that Project Voyager will benefit Kennedy, Mohammed, Fangjong plaintiffs.
I just want to say, though, we're not taking any more Project Voyager clients. If you are our existing DV 2020 client, that's who this is designed for, this Q&A. Our focus is on helping you. If you have friends that are DV 2020, please don't send them to us, because we are not taking any more DV 2020 clients. We're focused on meeting your needs.
So Pedro Gonzalez, Oi Pedro, said that, do you think government will take it easy now that there is new administration coming up on the 20th? I certainly hope they don't take it easy. We don't need an administrator to take it easy. But if the question is, do you think they would be more sympathetic to immigrants? I think yes. We saw some comments by Kamala Harris that they were already in discussions about a new immigration bill. They weren't very keen on giving us specifics, but I think this new administration is going to be a little more sympathetic to immigrants. What that exactly translates to and if that will benefit diversity visa selectees for 2020 or 2021 is yet to be seen.
Tasneem asked, what are the chances to win the case? Can we hope to get interview date at the end of March or mid of April if we win the lawsuit? Two-part question. The first part is the chances are extremely good that we're going to win the case on Mohammed, Fangjong, and Kennedy. The thing is, it's not just a win or lose. The order is probably going to be between 30 and 100 pages to describe the relief also and what it means. And it could mean different things. So we're trying to get the best order that we can, the best relief that we can.
So
someone tried to call me and it probably took my volume.
Okay, but if no, we heard you, Curtis. But if I get a new passport, this passport with issued visa is going to be stamped canceled and expired in the first page of the passport. So in this scenario, will they allow me to, in the point of entry, to accept my visa with canceled passport, also showing new passport? Yes. Travel with both passports, the one with visa in it and your new passport, and you'll be allowed to enter the United States. A lot of people have the scenario when they have 10-year tourist visas. They travel with both of them. You don't re-put the visa in the new passport. You just travel with both passports, one with the visa in it and your new passport, and you're allowed to enter the United States.
The second part of Tasneem's question I didn't get to. Can I hope for an interview date at the end of March? No. April would be the soonest that you would have an interview date. So you can plan your life better. There's no way we could get a final decision in the consolidated litigation for DVs, the Gomez litigation, Mohammed Song, John Kennedy, Edgar. No way that that order will come before the end of March is the soonest it can come. So there's no way you would be getting a visa in March. So don't anyone, if anybody's watching this and they're like, maybe I can get a DV visa, a DV 2020 visa in February or March, the answer is no, that will not happen.
Yeah, so unless Project Voyager is successful, but we don't anticipate that will happen in February or March.
And if it does, it is successful, it probably will take a few weeks to implement. So April is really the best you can hope for right now.
Right, Curtis is absolutely correct in that. It's very, very unlikely that anything will happen during that time. So we have a new question here. It's sort of a legal question, somewhat nuanced and very particular. So Andre asks, sorry for the off-topic question. Nevertheless, what do you think about the statements that DV winners as foreigners have no rights against the United States government and no one promised us anything? What do you think this is, in a sense, that correct or incorrect line of reasoning in the context of such conclusions or generalizations? I think we've already demonstrated that foreigners do have rights. I mean, we brought over 15 lawsuits suing the Trump administration on behalf of foreign nationals. So the short answer is you do have rights, and we've actually won, right? DV 2020 selectees, the entire group of plaintiffs from Mohammed Song, John Kennedy, Gomez are foreign nationals. So the short answer.
Rafael, I see that you're frozen. I'm nervous about that. You scroll to the bottom of the comments. Does anybody else see that Rafael's frozen? One second while I see where I am, what's happening here. I'm calling Rafael because I don't see him on my screen. Come back, Rafael. I'm waiting for Rafael. I've sent him a link.
Hey, Curtis, I've lost the internet at my house. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay. Well, I sent you the link to join. How much time to?
Let me see if it restarted.
Okay. Rafael had internet problems at his house. I'm going to do a couple questions while we're waiting for him. Let me see here.
I can also join here, I think. But I just won't be able to read questions, so if you can read questions to me, I can answer them as well.
The question is, you will have a hearing with Judge Mehta. If you have a hearing with Judge Mehta, which is a good way to start that question, because Judge Mehta may or may not have a hearing on the motion for summary judgment in March. He can make the decision without a hearing. But if you have a hearing, is there a possibility that he could order something like the entry of those who have visas before they expire? Yes, but that has nothing to do with the hearing. He can do that with or without a hearing, but he can't. He's not in a position to do it from civil procedure until we have the order on the motion for summary judgment, which we don't expect to be until the end of March. Oh, Rafael just hung up the phone on me. I know it says 148 of you are still here, so let me still look at questions. Will you strive for Mohammed, Fang Zhang, and Kennedy plaintiffs to take priority for processing? Yes. Oh, now somebody cannot hear me. Sakan, are you the only one that cannot hear me? Michael says, sounds like you need an IT guy. That sounds like a question from an IT guy. Okay. Emily said we need IT/social media probably. Okay. So for plaintiffs who didn't get confirmation of documents, BV 2020 Kennedy, how much are chances to get an interview? How much time would all this process take after Meta's decision? I don't know how to calculate these chances. People are always saying, well, what percentage? And I'm like, well, 61.23%. I mean, there's no way to calculate that. We are in an unprecedented time. This thing has not happened before. I think your chances are good, but if somebody did get their confirmation of documents, they're a Kennedy plaintiff, DV 2020, they did get their confirmation of documents, their chances are a little better. This litigation does not change that comparatively. Someone else in your same boat, but they're further along, are a little better. Now, if it's somebody that's not even a plaintiff, that's probably, they're not in an advantage for sure. Rahib asked, when will the first year for Jacob likely take place? I don't think that's the word he meant to type. Jacob litigation is moving very quickly. We filed thousands of pages with the court on Monday, and we expect to have updates continually on Telegram, Twitter, Facebook about that. So, oh, everybody can't hear me. I don't know where Rafael is. Rafael, where are you? Can you explain once again the validity of the police certificate, because I couldn't hear well before. Sorry for the inconvenience. It's good for 1 year. There's some countries where it's even good less, but for the most part, it's good for 1 year. So if you're at 11 months old on your police certificate, get a new one. And don't say, oh, I can always get that at the last minute, because you don't know what's going to happen. That happened at the Mexico federal government, where they said no more police certificates because of COVID. So be prepared. That's important. I was a Boy Scout, and they always taught us be prepared. Rafael is unable to join the room. So I'm going to end this and start again. I'm so sorry that I have to do this. I don't actually know how to end it either, which is also a problem.